Kevin versus the team. I have just found this Reddit and realized I have to tell you about the biggest plonker I've ever met. Around 15 years ago, I worked on a sales team and we got a new manager, Kevin. No one warmed to him. From day one, he strutted in like the second coming of Wolf of Wall Street minus the charisma. He couldn't go 10 minutes without reminding us how incredible he'd been at his last company. Apparently, he smashed targets, broke records, and worked his way up the ladder faster than anyone in history. If his mouth had a Fitbit, it would have hit 10K brags before lunch. The man didn't stop talking about himself and made no effort to get to know us, the team. At his first sales meeting, he opened with a monologue about his greatness that could have qualified as a TED Talk titled "Why I Am Brilliant and You're Not." Then he laid into us about our sales figures. We were over target, but according to him, we weren't aiming high enough. We were a pretty nice and upbeat company, so there were lots of raised eyebrows and WTF shared looks. Like, how do you bollock a team who are airways over target? Then he was so full of himself, he actually said, "I could hit that target on my own." So if you lot can't smash it as a team, something's seriously wrong. One of my bolder colleagues said, "Wow, what a fun and educational idea. Let's make it a competition, you versus the whole team." Everyone clapped and shouted a hell yeah. Then, as if fate itself wanted to join the fun, our director heard the commotion and walked in. My colleague announced Kevin's going up against the team this month to keep us motivated and show us how it's done. The director agreed it was a great idea. The first week of Kevin versus the entire sales team was like watching a live-action version of David and Goliath. If Goliath was a middle manager with anger issues, and David was literally everyone else. Kevin strutted in on Monday like he was about to deliver a masterclass, but didn't achieve a single sale, or the next day, or the next several after that. Meanwhile, the team was having the time of our lives. Even our new starter, Jonathan, a sweet, nervous lad who'd never done sales before, was outselling Kevin by week 2. Every time Jonathan made a sale, the office would erupt like he'd scored in the World Cup. By the 3rd week, Kevin had entered what we'll call his tantrum era. Phones were slammed. Headsets were thrown. At one point, he even dramatically announced the system is rigged. Kevin didn't make it until the end of the month. He left because he was pursuing other opportunities, which we all understood to mean fired for being spectacularly bad. My colleague was right, though. It was so fun and very educational in our mutual hatred for Kevin. We worked harder than ever and smashed all previous sales records in company history, which felt extra satisfying being as this was Kevin's main brag. I looked him up on LinkedIn recently and his bio reads, "World-class sales director, open to new opportunities," which I think probably means unemployed for being spectacularly bad and still full of himself, so it seems he didn't learn much at all. Kevin, buddy. Overpromise and underdeliver? You got it backwards. Anyway, let's move on to our next story from AITA. But hey, hit that follow before we jump in. AITA for not saying thank you when a parent returned my son's lunchbox. I, 35 female, have a son, 4 male. Let's call him Ben. I pack lunch for all my kids and purchased bento lunchboxes for each of them. They go for about $50 on Amazon. I label my kids' lunches, lunchbox, as well as pretty much everything they own and take to school. A few weeks ago, when I went to pick up my son from school on a Tuesday, I noticed that his book bag was a little light, and when I looked inside, I realized that he was missing his bento box. No biggie. I mentioned it to one of the after-school teachers, and she said that she had accidentally sent it home with another kid. He has a similar name to my son. Let's say Ken. I should note that I have never met this kid or his parent. Anyway, again, no biggie. I just kindly asked her have the parent return the lunchbox the next day. The following day, I inquired about the lunchbox, and the teacher said that the parent had messaged her saying she would bring it the following day, as they are PT students coming on TTH. All right, cool. Thursday comes around, and after school, I'm like, okay, where's my son's lunchbox? The teacher tells me the parent forgot it, but will def bring it next Tuesday. I'm a little annoyed, but I figure I'll give the parent some grace. Next Tuesday comes and no lunchbox. At this point, I'm properly annoyed. I mention the missing lunchbox to my son's daytime teachers, asking them to reach out to this parent so I can get my son's lunchbox back because WTF. Fast forward to another week. Still no lunchbox. Apparently the mother is postpartum and very forgetful. She made a joke to the teacher saying the lunchbox was getting closer to school because she put it by her front door. Needless to say, I'm properly pissed. I really don't understand why this is such an ordeal. Just put the lunchbox in your car or your kid's book bag to bring to school. My husband wants me to find the parent and confront her myself, but the teachers won't give me her name, and I can never catch the kid or her at pickup. So I send a very stern email to the principal, admin, and all my son's teachers expressing my frustration with this and explaining that I want my kid's stuff. I guess they finally are able to get through to this parent, and the next Thursday, nearly 4 weeks later, she meets me and brings the lunchbox. She apologizes and she tried to joke about the situation, but I was so annoyed that I just kind of stared at her blankly. Then I just said, okay, took the lunchbox and left. She apparently told some of the other parents that I was rude to her and that I could have been more appreciative that she brought the lunchbox back. Ma'am, eye roll. So anyway, Ada for not saying thank you? Edit. So last Friday we had a Halloween parade at the kids' school and a lot of the parents were there. One of the parents who heard about the hostage lunchbox was chatting me up and I was explaining the situation. And for those of you who said she wanted it for herself, spot on. Apparently her son really liked it and was always telling his mom for it, but she didn't want to get it for him. When it was mistakenly put in her son's bag, she thought it was the perfect opportunity to just keep it. She thought I would just let it go and she would be able to keep it for her son. But no dice on that. Circling back to the folks who were talking about the price of the lunchbox, it's because it's expensive that I wanted it back. I'm not made of money and I buy quality stuff for my kids so they can last throughout the school year and beyond. So for me to just let it go, and then have to spend money to purchase another one wasn't going to happen. Plus, I really did feel like she was playing games with me. Anywho, I'll admit that I wasn't the nicest when she returned it. I'm only human. But when I saw her at the parade, I made sure I was polite-ish and showed her the link if she wanted to get the lunchbox for her kid, as well as mentioned that there were some less expensive options. All's well that ends well. Anyway, let's move on to our next story from Malicious Compliance. But hey, hit that follow before we jump in. Daycare wants my office to park in our reserved spaces while they use ours too. We did. Been waiting for this one. My partner and I own a small 8-person company that shares a building with only a daycare. Our company consists almost exclusively of higher-level professionals, a couple lawyers, CPAs, etc., so most have their own large office plus a couple of common areas, conference rooms, a nice kitchen. All in all, it's about 3,500 SQFT, which is obviously a lot for 8 people, but necessary for our line of work. Due to the size of the office, the lease has a parking provision which grants us exclusive rights to all 24 parking spots. This is somewhat important. To the story, not our work, we only need 8+ clients. Also important is the daycare's parking lot only consisting of about 10 spots in front of the building. The parents would use our lot to drop off as the daycare's lot would be mostly full with their staff's cars, and even some of their staff would park in our lot. I didn't mind at all. We had over a dozen empty spots each day, and it was nice to have the mostly happy children around in the mornings, afternoon. Until a month ago. I started coming in a bit later at the same time as daycare drop-off. Our lot was crazy with parents' kids walking and parking, so I used their lot like they have done with ours for years. First day, no issue. Second day, the manager saw me get out and gave me a piercing stare. A week later or so, I did it again, and my car was towed. Not a warning or word from the manager, anyone at the daycare. To me or our office, I went to the daycare to ask if they knew it was my car. It is a very distinctive old blue truck, and if some kind of mistake had been made. The manager came out and said it was not a mistake, and in a very rude, demeaning tone, her exact words were along the lines of, "Unfortunately, we can't have the liability of non-staff and parents within our lot, and I'm sure the parents don't appreciate having to walk further either, or an unknown adult like you in the lot." She looks me up and down, and I am a totally normal-looking 30-year-old male, I think at least. "Don't you have some reserve spots in the back? You should really park there and let us park here." With an eye roll, she walked off. I was happy I held my tongue in front of the children, considering how king angry I was, knowing it was not the time for that conversation. A couple days later, I told the manager while we were outside the office that I wished she would have come to me before towing my car and costing me $600, asked for an apology, and said since we share the back lot and the parents take up almost all of our spots in the morning and afternoon, can I park in the front lot the occasional morning the timelines align? She flatly said no, and basically gave me the same speech she gave last time, at least not commenting on my appearance this time. I left things for a week, thinking it was over. Until again, I had nowhere to park one morning. having to wait 10 minutes for parents to filter out of our lot lest my car be towed, and who do I see but the manager getting a spot in my lot before me even. I decided to comply with the manager's wishes then, and developed a plan. I contacted the building owner and said, or more accurately lied, that due to compliance reasons with a state license we're applying for, we need to have a gate installed with employee our guest pass access only on our parking lot. Our company would of course cover the cost. Same day approval from landlord. Installed 2 weeks later. I drove in early that first day after install. I tell you, the mayhem was well worth it. Watching from the corner window gave me a perfect view of it all. It started with daycare staff pressing all sorts of keys on the gate to try and get in, trying to park where they have for months, years even. Then their lot filled up completely. Parents started arriving. A staff member had to stand at the gate telling parents there was now no access. Their parking lot was basically congested with parents double parked taking their children in. Other parents parked a quarter-mile down in another lot at the park our office overlooks. I eventually went down to give the manager a nice little wave and walked back up to my office. She gave me a piercing stare that just made me grin ear to ear. I guess she sent the owner a rather angry email about parking rights to the back lot afterwards and how it's crazy one small office gets the entire thing. Apparently, she did not know we had all of it. He said him, and I may have to discuss the parking provision in the future, and he also did not know the lease gave the entire back lot, but it's not a big deal to him. Not sure why he let me put the gate in. Regardless, I still have 2 years left on my lease with another option to extend an additional 5, so no plans on moving anytime. Soon from the office are my 24 parking spots. P.S. It's an office building next to a park and residential homes. I am in no way endangering these children since they now walk through a quarter-mile of grass and playground to get to daycare. There's not even a street to cross from that lot. If anything, I made the days of the employees and parents better in retrospect. Actually not sure employees can park in the playground lot for that long. Edit. Finally figured out how to edit. Newer around these parts. To everyone asking me why I did not tow, 2 reasons. 1, most importantly, I was tired and working 12-plus-hour days for a few months at that point. That day she parked there was the last or second to last day of that stretch, and then I'm basically 4 to 6 hours a day for 9 months. Towing a car was the last thing on my mind. Getting into the office and finishing my work was my only goal. Then my partner suggested it when I recounted the story. 2, $600 can be a lot of money for some. I grew up fairly poor and know how devastating a towed car can mean to a family struggling month to month. Another day I may have done it. I'm glad I didn't. That's very considerate, OP. Subscribe.